Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening to Shabbat Shalom to everyone in the sanctuary, as well as those out there in internet land, as we say. My name is Betty Adams. I'm co-president of Temple Sinai, along with Lynn Weinstein, and it is my pleasure to introduce Rabbi Aviva Bass, student cantor Daniel Geigerman, and Dr. David McFarlane, our accompanist, for a wonderful Shabbat service. Please make sure all of your devices are on silent. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
And welcome to all who are here in our Temple Sinai sanctuary, as well as all who are worshiping with us from afar through the internet. We welcome you all, and we are all worshiping in community together tonight. Let's start with a song, one of my favorites for Shabbat, Yedid Nefesh, which is Delight of My Soul, or the Beloved of My Soul, which is on page 128 in the middle of the page.
Yedid nefesh harachaman, Yedid nefesh harachaman, Mishok avdecha, El ritzonecha, Mishok avdecha, Yalanai nai nai, El ritzonecha, Yarutz avdecha, Imo hayam, Ishtachave yai Yalanai nai nai, El muhadarecha, Yedid nefesh harachaman, Yedid nefesh harachaman, Mishok avdecha,
Next Shabbat, we have a young man who is going to become a bar mitzvah, Hayden Kesselman. And so in preparation for this, we're going to honor his entire family by asking them to come up and to lead us in the candle lighting blessing as well as the Kiddush. And then later in the service, Hayden will help us to sing the Shema. But right now, why don't you come on up? And the page for candle lighting is 120 to 121, and then we have 122 to 123 is Kiddush, and you can all do all of it if you would like.
As these Shabbat candles are lit, to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all those who behold us, as their brightness remind us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light. So may we in our day be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kirishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'b'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikraye kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu v'charta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava u'b'ratzon, inchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh Shabbat. Amen.
Praise you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat.
Amen. L'chaim. Okay, why don't you take a seat? And we'll hear from Hayden in a little bit with the Shema. Take a seat with your parents. And now we turn to page 138 for Lecha Dodi. And of course, we will do verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And when we get to the final verse, it is customary, if you're able to do so, to rise and face the back of the room, to face the open door, to welcome in the Shabbat bride or queen into our midst. I'm going to take this off. Page 138, Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad, ishmiyanu el hamichad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shemu tiferet v'litila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'melcha, ki mekor haberacha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila. Lecha Dodi likrat Shabbat nekabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, hitoreri, ki ba'orek uri uri, uri uri, shir daberi, kevod Adonai alifika. Lecha dodi, lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, גם בשמחה ובצולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת לקבלה. Adoni likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
Please take a seat. As we turn to Psalm 92 on page 140, you'll notice the first line after the Mizmor Shir, which is a psalm, a song for Shabbat, Liyom HaShabbat. We have Tov lehodot l'Adonai. It is good to praise Adonai and to sing hymns to your name, O Most High. And this is a line, the Tov lehodot l'Adonai is a line that many composers have used for different melodies. So we're going to sing one tonight. I don't know if we've sung it before here, but if we don't, you'll learn it very quickly. So Tov lehodot on page 140.
Tov lehodot l'Adonai, uzamer l'shimcha elyon. Tov lehodot l'Adonai, uzamer l'shimcha elyon. Try it with me. Tov lehodot l'Adonai, uzamer l'shimcha elyon. Tov lehodot l'Adonai, uzamer l'shimcha elyon. On this the day of days, my lips shall sing your praise, for I know that you'll always be here surrounding me. Tov lehodot l'Adonai, uzamer l'shimcha elyon. Tov lehodot l'Adonai, uzamer l'shimcha elyon. My spirit takes release, I close my eyes in peace, and from my soul heard far above springs a song of love. Tov lehodot l'Adonai, uzamer l'shimcha elyon. Tov lehodot l'Adonai, uzamer l'shimcha elyon.
We rise as we turn to page 146 for the Barchu.
Yai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, 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 yai dai 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 dai, yai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai dai dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Barechu et Adonai hamevorach. Barechu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed. Yai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai dai, yai dai dai dai.
Please be seated. As we turn to page 149, and we read together at the top of the page. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. Please turn to page 150 and join us in singing Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shokbeinu, uvkumeinu nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו לאורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה, נגה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תעשה
I'd like to invite Hayden Kesselman back up to the bima to help us to lead the Shema. As the rest of us turn to page 152, and those who are able to do so, please rise for the Shema. Thank you, Hayden. Please be seated. And now we turn to page 155, and please join me in the interpretive translation of Ve'ahavta. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or you are rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai your God. I led you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Adonai Elohechem Emet. On page 162 at the top, we have a song for Shabbat, the Vishamru.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat La'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש שבת ויהי נפש אותי לעולם אותי לעולם. Before we move on to the Amidah, the standing portion of our service, I want you all to look at page 163. There you will find the words of Abraham Joshua Heschel, the wonderful scholar, and these words reminded me this week when I got a text message from my colleague and friend, Rabbi Ali Cohen. Hi. Don't look at her. So it reminded me of our time in Jerusalem. And everybody's getting ready for Shabbat. And the siren blows one long blast for the start of Shabbat. And everything is silent. The shuk, the market, is empty. And there's this sense that time has stopped. That there's this sense of eternity in this moment of Shabbat. And I wanted to bring this composition from Dan Nichols that takes these words of Abraham Joshua Heschel and puts them to a beautiful melody. And at the end, there is what we call a nigun part, which is a nonsense syllable, yai dai dai. And then we will take those notes that we sing on Yai Dai Dai and put Adonai Sifatai. And when you hear that, please rise for the Amidah. A thought has blown the marketplace away. There is a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat has arrived in the world, scattering a song in the silence of the night, and eternity utters a day. Eternity utters a day. Yai dai dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai. Try that with me. Yai dai dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai dai, yai dai dai, yai dai dai. Please rise. Adonai Svatai, Svatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagitehi Latecha. Adonai Svatai, Svatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagitehi Latecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanorah El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chastei Avot V'Imahot Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. We continue with our own personal prayer. If I turned away, would you wait for me? If I sometimes strayed, would you set me free? If I were to doubt you, would you still believe in me? If I saw the truth, would you somehow help me see? My heart's filled with questions that my head can answer. Still with my reservations, I find you're always there. When I'm tiptoeing backwards like a faithless dancer, Without hesitation, I find you're always there. Oh, if I spoke to you, would you try to hear the secrets lost inside of me, all my deepest fear? My heart's filled with questions that my head can't answer. Still with my reservations, I find you're always there. When I'm tiptoeing backwards like a faithless dancer, without hesitation, I find you're always there. Whoa, if I were to doubt you.
Tonight we have a Torah service, and we begin our Torah service in our Siddur on page 362. And as we open our ark for the Torah service, we rise. Page 362.
Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kemasecha. Malechutecha, malechut kol olamim, umemshaltecha bechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, u'devar Adonai Yerushalayim. Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadlu Adonai iti, uneromema shemo yachtav. Lecha Adonai hagidula v'hagivura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod. Ki kol bashamayim u'va'aretz, ki kol bashamayim u'va'aretz. Lecha Adonai
Am I on? Yes, okay. Tonight's Parsha is Parshat Chayei Sarah. I am going to be reading not at the very beginning of the Parsha, but a little bit on, a couple paragraphs in. You can find it on page 161 in the red Chumash, the Plout commentary. Page 161, it should be in front of you, in the chair in front of you, the seat in front of you. Page 161. And we will have just one congregational aliyah. Where is Dan? We'll have just one congregational aliyah tonight. Okay. Okay. My partner in crime. Okay. Here you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Ya'amdu, please stand up. Anyone who wishes to do so for this aliyah. Together we say the bracha.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch ata Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. V'Avraham zakein bayamim v'Adonai berach et Avraham bakol. Vayomer Avraham elavdo zakein beito hamshel bechol asher lo. Simna yadcha tachat yurechi v'ashbiyacha b'Adonai Elohei hashamayim v'Elohei haaretz asher lo tikach isha livni mivnot haknaani asher anochi yoshev b'kirbo. Ki el arzi ve'el moladati telech velakachta isha livni leitzhak. And I'll read a translation, the translation in the Plout. Abraham was now old, advanced in years, and Adonai had blessed Abraham in all things. And Abraham said to the senior servant of his household, who had charge of all that he owned, "Put your hand under my thigh, and I will make you swear by Adonai, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I dwell, but will go to the land of my birth and get a wife for my son Isaac." And you'll find out what happens in the drash in a little bit. But let's say the bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. And now I'd like to give you all a Mishaberach. Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov v'Imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah. May the Holy One who blessed all our ancestors bless all of you who have come up today in honor of God, in honor of Torah, in honor of Shabbat, and in honor of your commitment to the Jewish community. May the Holy One of blessing grant all of us good, long, healthy lives filled with blessing, filled with joy, love, and peace in your homes, and prosperity in all of our endeavors, along with all of our family and friends, and along with the entire house of Israel. And let us all say, Amen. Please take a seat. Thank you. At this time, it is our minhag, our custom here at Temple Sinai, that we have a Mishaberach for healing, a healing prayer. By the way, Mishaberach literally means the one who blessed. And that's why we sometimes say Mishaberach, shorthand for healing. And this is that one right now. But I gave you a Mishaberach because I started with those same words. That was a blessing as well. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless all of us. So here is a list of those who are in need of healing. And I will place that on top of the Holy Torah scroll. And I'll look at that while we are praying this prayer. But I'd like to ask if you have any name or names of those you are thinking of at this time, that as I open my arms, you there who are worshiping with us from afar as well, please say their names aloud now. So for all of those whom we have named, as well as all of those good people around the world who are in need of healing at this time, of body, mind, spirit, or of all three, we sing this healing Mishaberach.
Mishaberach Avoteinu, Abraham, Yitzchak, veYaakov. Mishaberach Imotenu, Zara, Rivka, Leah, veRachel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer. Hear our prayer and bless us as well. Bless us with the power of your healing. Bless us with the power of your hope. May our hearts be filled with understanding and strengthened by the power of your love. Bless us with the vision for tomorrow. Help us to reach out to those in pain. May the warmth of friendship ease our sorrow. Give us courage, give us faith, show us the way. Mishaberach Avoteinu, Mishaberach Imotenu, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well. Hear our prayer, 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 and bless us as well.
I was looking over at our Hagba, Eric Adams, because he's playing double duty tonight. So those of you who are watching from afar, if anything happens on the screen that's a little bit unexpected, it's because our techie is now being Hagba. This is his other kippah tonight. Okay, so we're going to raise the Torah high in the air. Actually, I'm not going to say we. He will raise the Torah high in the air. It's a little lopsided right now because we're toward the very beginning of the Torah. But we're going to rise, please, as he raises the Torah high in the air, and Eric will show us the columns of Torah, and we will sing V'zot HaTorah.
V'zot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai beyad Moshe.
Let's make sure it's really tight. There we go. remain standing as we turn to page 374 and prepare for the Torah's return to the Ark, as the Ark is opened.
Eitz Chaim hi lemachazikim ba v'tom heha meushar deracheha darchei noam lechon netivoteha shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva chadesh chadesh yameinu chadesh yameinu kekedem.
Thank you. Please be seated. I'm just going to wait a moment to make sure that the camera is facing me and not an empty podium. So just a moment. Thank you, Eric. In the Torah, Abraham is on his deathbed and he commands his servant Eliezer not to find Isaac a wife from among the Canaanites, but instead to go back to his homeland to find a wife for his son, Isaac, which we just read. Other than that, Abraham does not give criteria for Isaac's bride. Eliezer journeys to find a wife for Isaac from Abraham's old homeland, and along the way, he prays to God to help him to know who is the right woman. So imagine for a moment that you are a modern-day Eliezer, tasked with finding the right spouse for Isaac. Imagine writing an ad for J-Date, say, for our patriarch Isaac. What would you say? Perhaps something like, seeking understanding woman to comfort grieving mama's boy after his mother's death. Must be understanding of childhood trauma and its generational effects. Remember, last Parsha, what happened with Isaac up on the mountain. Well, that's what I would write. So what does Abraham's servant Eliezer look for to find the perfect wife for Isaac? You might have thought something external like how she looks, or even a good dowry perhaps to help their family's wealth increase or their property to grow. But Eliezer parks his camels near a well and prays, saying, Adonai, God of my master Abraham, grant me good fortune this day and deal graciously with my master Abraham. Here I stand by the spring as the daughters of the townsmen come out to draw water. Let the maiden to whom I say, please lower your jar that I may drink, and who replies, drink, and I will also water your camels, let her be the one whom you have decreed for your servant Isaac. Thereby shall I know that you have dealt graciously with my master. And sure enough, he is scarcely finished speaking this prayer when Rebekah, already a member of Abraham's family, comes toward him to the well. He asks her to take a sip from her water jug, and she indeed offers him water, and then also gives water to the camels. What is this test for Rebekah when Eliezer prays? It's a test of an act of gemilut chasadim. Gemilut chasadim is an act of loving kindness or compassion. And actually, I read one interpretation that the word gemilut is related to gamal, which is camel. And so by watering the camels, by giving water to someone, by giving to someone who is in need in this way, it is gemilut chasadim. I don't know if it's really etymologically connected, gamal and gemilut. It sounds the same. It looks like the same shoresh. So I'll go there. I'll take that as a given. So gemilut chasadim is this act of loving kindness. And so this is the most important quality to Eliezer. Not beauty, not wealth, but character. In his article on this parsha, Rabbi Michael Berenbaum argues that Rebecca is the most notable of our matriarchs for her character and actions. And I have to say, I agree with this argument. She is asked whether she consents to go with Eliezer right away to Abraham's family to marry Isaac, and she decides to leave immediately. Now, we may not all agree with all that Rebecca does in her lifetime. Certainly, her setting up the deceit of her husband Isaac so that Jacob can receive the greater blessing is a questionable choice, although Rabbi Berenbaum would argue that it was necessary to fulfill God's prophecy that the elder would serve the younger. And hold on to your hats for next week, because that's where we're going. Rebecca is unquestionably the most active of our matriarchs. We get to know Rebecca in a different way than Sarah, Rachel, and Leah. As Rabbi Berenbaum states, it is young Rebecca who duplicates Abraham's going forth to an unknown land. She's going off with Eliezer to this land she doesn't know anything about. She is the Torah heroine who encounters God regarding her turbulent pregnancy next week. She urges her reluctant son to deceive her husband. She creates the space within which Isaac can make the right choice between his sons, thus transmitting the family legacy to the chosen one. She sends her beloved Jacob into exile to protect him from Esau's ire. Wise and daring, cunning and unrelenting, she is the one. And Eliezer grabs all this in one gesture. So again, I bring us back to my tongue-in-cheek J-date advertisement for who would make the best spouse for the patriarch of the second generation for our Jewish legacy. When we look at Isaac, we see a wounded and passive character. He seems to accept his fate to become his father's sacrifice to this unknown God when he questions with trepidation where the sacrifice is. Although Abraham says, God will see to the lamb to sacrifice, Abraham ends with the words, my son, which could be that Abraham is addressing his son with a comma between these words. God will see to the sacrifice, my son. Or it could be a colon between these words. God will see to the sacrifice, my son. Perhaps it is both when Abraham says it. It's deliberately non-specific. But we sense between the text of the words of the text that Isaac may know deep down that he is to be the sacrifice. Isaac passively climbs with Abraham to what he probably knows is meant to be his death. He never speaks to his father again in the Torah, and indeed speaks very little to anyone. A little bit in the next paragraph about the wells, but very little, except for when we hear him in the encounter with each of his sons with the episode of trickery. He cannot see well. And actually, one of the Midrashim, one of the early stories by our ancient rabbis, imagines that Isaac is so traumatized by the sight of his father standing over him with a knife that this is the last his eyes ever see. He is literally blinded by the traumatic event. So what does Isaac need in order to father the Jewish people through his line? A bold, strong, compassionate wife to be his counterpart. Someone who cares enough to step forward and act, whether it is to care for a stranger's needs and that of his animals, or to pressure her favorite son into trickery when he, the one chosen by God for the lineage, is not her husband's favorite. Isaac is passive. Rebekah balances him out with her active nature. Not only is Rebekah the most active of all the matriarchs, she is also much more active than her husband. Thus, Rebekah is necessary for both the genetic material as well as the parenting of Jacob, who is to become Yisrael, Israel, the father of the tribes of our people. Perhaps she is also necessary for Esau as well, although his lineage and people are not our primary concern with our origin story as Jews, so we don't know that. But certainly, I would make the argument that she is the right fit for our people. So what would we add to this J-date ad that would have produced Rebekah? Certainly, Gemilut Chasadim, the act of loving kindness, someone who possesses a lot of Gemilut Chasadim, a compassionate, kind-hearted woman, but also an active one, someone comfortable in her own skin, decisive and in control of her destiny. Except for one moment, I already hear the laughter coming from Helene, except for the moment when she quite literally falls in love with her husband-to-be. When Rebekah first sets eyes on Isaac from a distance, she literally falls off her camel. How many of you have been up on a camel? I have, in India, actually. You know how high it is. It is taller than most horses, even the big ones. It's really tall. So she literally falls off. It is translated usually, she alights from her camel, but she's not alighting in the Hebrew. She's falling, nafla. She fell off the camel. So talk about falling in love at first sight. So this match truly is beshert, meant to be. And by the way, when Rebekah joins Isaac, she brings light into his tent, which had been darkened by Isaac's grief for his mother Sarah. So this story has a happy ending, at least at this point in the Torah. Join us next week as our Torah turns. Shabbat Shalom. And now, since we were speaking a bit about romantic love, we're going to sing a little bit about it. Text from Song of Songs, Dodi Li. And now let's take a break for a moment as we listen to some brief announcements.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Cantor Dan. And thank you, Dr. David. And thank you to the Kesselman family for joining us and helping us start Shabbat this evening. Just a few announcements to share with you. First of all, gratitude to our sponsors. To Arlene Lerman, in memory of George Lerman, we thank you for donating to Shabbat worship service this evening. And we also thank you for sponsoring Torah study tomorrow, where you will learn a great deal more about Sarah. Also want to thank Ruth Seidel and Sam Weinman for making a donation to the food pantries in memory of Steve Stein's beloved mother, Muriel Stein. There's many opportunities to make donations to Temple Sinai in support of our Shabbat worship, as well as Torah study, and especially for the food pantries throughout South Palm Beach County. We'd like to believe that the food insecurity associated with the health crisis may be behind us, but it is not in the rearview mirror. And we also always welcome donations for the food pantry, both to the Jacobson Food Pantry through the Jewish community at Rails Jewish Family Services, but also to Cross Ministries, the interfaith food pantry here in Delray and Boynton Beach. Just share a couple of things with you and remind you that the Delray Beach Public Library, in conjunction with the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum and Temple Sinai, as well as the American Library Association, is still ongoing with the wonderful exhibit of America in the Holocaust, and lots of programs. We're very proud to be sponsors. Please remember to pick up some of the community information from the library that's out in the front lobby that goes through November 17th. Also want to congratulate our bar mitzvah for next week. He's been studying for oh so many months, and as I think about it, he's one of our young men whose bar mitzvah was temporarily postponed. And so Mazel Tov Hayden, Mazel Tov Mom and Dad Desiree and Howard. We're looking forward to Shabbat morning next week. And friends and members of Temple Sinai, you're welcome to join us for Shabbat morning worship next week. The following week, a reminder that there's going to be 6 wonderful women who are going to be called for to the Torah for their Benot Mitzvah, for which they have been studying for a couple of years, along with Rabbi Aviva, and now with the assistance of Cantor Dan, and we're all looking forward to that as well. A couple of other reminders for our members, both here as well as our viewers. Next Shabbat, we will be commemorating both Veterans Day in anticipation of Veterans Day, and some of you have shared your veterans experience with Rabbi Aviva a couple of years ago, and Sue Wexler may be calling you over the next couple of days if you are a member for maybe the last 2 years, just to learn if you also served in the military, so that you will be honored and mentioned at that service. But of course, we will also commemorate another year since Kristallnacht. On behalf of my Betty, our clergy, and the Board of Trustees, wish you all a week of peace and good health as we all look ahead to a time when we can really gather together in safety and good health. Shabbat Shalom.
We turn now in our Siddur, in our prayer book, to page 586. And as the ark is open, we rise for the Aleinu.
It's up to us to call ourselves to task to sing what's good and true, to bring about redemption. It's what we were free to do. For what's the point of being here? We're not moved to change our ways. Aleinu l'shabeach. It's time to live our praise. Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please take a seat. It is hard to sing of oneness when the world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone, and nothing but memory can fill the emptiness their passing leaves behind. In affirming the Holy One, we affirm the worth of each one whose life now ended brought us closer to the source of life, in whose unity no one is alone, and every life finds purpose. This week is the sad occasion of the remembrance of a tragedy, of violence, of lives cut short, which is why I chose to say it is hard to sing of oneness when the world is not complete, when such things can still happen in our world. And so I'd like to name for all of us the victims of the Pittsburgh massacre. It's been one more year since their passing. Joyce Feinberg, Dr. Rich Gottfried, Rose Mallinger, Jerry Rabinowitz, Cecil Rosenthal, David Rosenthal, Bernice Simon, Sylvan Steinman, Daniel Stein, Melvin Wax, and Irving Younger. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing for us, and may such tragedies be eliminated from our world. We also recall the yahrzeits, the commemoration of the passing of the following people. First, I want to acknowledge Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, who left us 1 year ago. I can't believe it's been a year since his passing. Many of us have learned with or from Rabbi Sachs, either in person. He was actually here in Boca Raton the year prior. I've lost track of years, but many of us went to hear him there. Many of us quote him for his Torah commentary, and he has many, many brilliant books, although I'm sure he could have written many, many more. So I refer you to Rabbi Sachs's many books. And we also remember those people whose names are illuminated on the plaque surrounding the sanctuary, whose yahrzeits also occur at this time. Jack Aaron, Susan Joyce Abellis, Leopold Berendt, Joseph Cohen, Renee Martha Cohen, Saul Cohen, Helen DeFries, Jack Engel, Burton Field, Emmanuel Gruer, Jack Kornthal, Jacob Krasno, George Lerman, David Michael Lewis, Garson D. Mink, Barbara Josby Pincus, Jacob Raymond, Louis Stream, and Leo Yarfitz. Others recalled at this time: Larry Baymel, Robert Davidoff, Martin Greenberg, Frida Kamian, Gerald Krupnikoff, Estelle Lair, Anna Lubart, Harry Miller, Linda Murnick, and Sarah Rothman. We are in the Shloshim period, the 30 days just after the funeral for the following people: Julia Oken, Muriel Stein, and Claire Michael. If you are thinking of someone whom I have not named, if you could just raise your hand so I can acknowledge you to say the name aloud. So for all of those whom we have named, as well as all of those who were murdered in the Shoah, we rise in solidarity with mourners everywhere as we recite the Mourner's Kaddish, page 598, 598. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divarach hirute v'yamlich malchute. B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbah mevorach leolam ulal me'al maya. Yitparach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal Shemei Kudesha b'richu. Le'elah min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran ba'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shalom arab b'min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav huya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all who mourn among us. And let us all say, Amen.
Amen.
Please take a seat for our closing song.
I want you all to take a moment and breathe in this moment, this eternity with each other. Close your eyes and just listen to this lullaby. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom, Lishalom, V'ha'amidenu Shomreinu L'chayim, Ufros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha, Ufros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen.
Amen. What a beautiful lullaby. Those who are at home can just lie down and relax now. We have to drive. You're the lucky ones. That was beautiful. Thank you. Shabbat shalom to everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.